Hey, greetings everybody, Larry here, and welcome back to another wild, weird episode on Larry's Fountain Pens. Cool. October. What's that spell? Halloween. What's that mean? Dress up time, fantasy, enjoyment, fun. It's like trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat. Yes. Hey, I have a lot of fun with what I do. I love what I do. I get a kick out being a kick. Can you dig it? Today, I'm going to talk about some vintage Sheaffer pens. Now, I call these pens student pens. Sheaffer is one of my favorite, especially in the vintage field, and I really take to the what I call the student fountain pen because it brings me back from the days back growing up and using fountain pens, right? Right. All right, so now let's look at this one. This is the rare green, the red one, pardon me, the one that you can see through a little bit. And I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to talk about the orange one because I do need some help from anyone that's experienced with these vintage student pens. So I think they're around 50, 60. All right, I have two vintage pens here that could date back 50 to 60s or 60s to early 70s. So if anybody has any knowledge of these pens, let me know. I call them the student pens because I used this type of pen when I was in elementary and junior high. And I've never used one of these in school. It's always been one of these. Okay, so once again, the red pen right here. As you compare them against the orange, the red one is quite a bit longer. Not a lot, but it comes in at 4.72 inches. Where the orange one just comes in at, well, close to it, well, 4.36 inches. So there's a significance there when they're not capped. But again, when you post your pens and you put them together, you can't really hardly tell the difference. The main difference is the clips. They both have cartridges in there, which I have to fill. So let's talk about the nibs. The nib on this little jewel is a 304 Sheaffer made in USA. And this one here is a Sheaffer made in USA, and this is a fine nib, has F. So I was checking the web for what the 304 stand for, and it popped up as a fine nib. So my question is, because I cannot find the information, is why did they put a 304 on the nib and not the actual nib size? And was that information I read on the web correct? Or does that 304 stand for maybe a more flex type of nib? I don't know, because that's all I could find on the web on it, and I'm just interested on that 304. Is that correct? Does that stand for a fine? So you have the same Sheaffer has a fine nib on it, but I'm sure there's different years when these were made. And I'm going to guess that both of them, I'm just going to call them more student pens, because I know I had one just like this one back in the 5th and 6th grade, and actually in the 7th grade. Mine were blue and one was red. So that's what I like to get some feedback on. If anybody knows, leave your comments below. So let me just undo this a bit. And there's the Sheaffer cartridge that's come with the pen. And I just refill it. They really are really nice little pens. I like them a lot. They're very enjoyable to write with. And I'm using some Mont Blanc James Dean Rebel Red in this one. And then on the orange one, I'm using some Mont Blanc. Can you guess on the ink? An orange barrel with Mont Blanc Lucky Orange. Again with the Sheaffer cartridge in it. So I have a green one just like this, and I really enjoy them. They're very affordable. You can get them like $5, and even sometimes you can get them lower than $5. I believe I got both of these in auction for like a little over $7. Well worth it to me. I've had no kind of problems with the pen. They both function properly. They work great. They both, clip on the shirt with, no problems whatsoever. And they're secured. So, again, my questions on some help from all you more experienced folks out there that know your Sheaffer vintage pens. First question, why is the clip longer than the other clip? The orange barrel with a shorter clip with the red almost clear barrel, which I guess they just painted red, or I don't know how they do the part of the barrel, but the length of the clip is longer than the orange. So this isn't a clear, but I would call it like a red demonstrator type barrel. We'll take off the barrels for a minute. The grips, when you put them together, look about the same to me. Let me tighten that up a little bit there. And when I hold them like this, they both match up. It's just the barrel part, as you can see here. When I hold them, I'm matching them up here with the grips and the nibs. Right in here, you can see how much longer the red barrel is. So, I found that interesting. So the weight of the orange one is 10.1 G's, and the weight of the red one is only 10.2 G's. Like I said before, I don't deal with a whole lot of vintage. There's only certain vintage pens that I deal with, and Sheaffer is one of them, Parker, Waterman, and there's a few others, but I don't get into any really real foreign made vintage pens like Russian pens or Czechs or any stuff like that. I like to stick, I guess, to pens that I'm more familiar with. So now we're going to do some writing. And let me pull out the old Rhodia paper here. Well, it's been a busy day today, folks. How about y'all?
Yeah!
Well, he's been busy, but he stays busy, kind of bony. So let's get to writing here. And this is the red one with it's just a fine nib of 304. Okay, this is the 304. and I'm going to call it fine. Okay. And we'll do a few little and reverse. But you know, it does write reverse for those who need it. And we'll do a little wet test. Nice wet nib. It's a nice, decent, smooth nib with just a hint of feedback. But I would say there's a nice nib on it. Very nice. I like it. Now let's do the orange one. And this is a fine nib. Okay. And we'll do reverse. You can do some reverse writing, get a different line variation, but it's kind of tough to do that because you don't want to put too much pressure and bend your nib. So that's reverse. This is regular. So, okay, here is a fine nib. And this is going to be the 304 nib. I'll put them together. So what do you think? Which ones looks? These look about the same to me. On that cross stroke, magnify it in. They look about the same. And I'm looking here. They look about the same, so I calling this a fine, and I can be wrong, but that's what I'm coming up with, and I've been racking my brain trying to find out that 304. Why is that 304 on the nib instead of having, you know, a letter on the nib? And like I said, when I searched the web, the information I found on the 304 was a fine nib. So does that mean was this made as in a different year than this pen? And if so, did they mark their nibs by letters? Instead of numbers? So that's going to wrap this one up today, folks. Again, if you have any comments and you actually know much about these particular pens, leave your comments below. That would really be helpful. I'm no know-it-all about pens. I'll be the first to admit that. But I'm one to look up the history about pens. I like to find out, the stories about these pens, where they come from, who had them last, if I can even find that out, with, what kind of ink that people used in it back then. Anything I can find that's interesting, I like to try to find it, really dig into the background of pens. Folks, thanks for watching. Have a great day. And remember, have a happy, safe Halloween. Later. Bye-bye.